Okay, let's build a synth that specializes on playing chords and morphing it in between them. And now we won't start from scratch because I prepared a small patch which has two oscillators and a noise oscillator mixed together, and going into a filter with keyboard tracking. And we only use the gate of the MIDI note node, and that gate is driving the ADSR, and that's creating the envelope. The pitch comes from this custom function, and we control the pitch using a knob which is connected to my MIDI controller. And if I hit a key on my MIDI keyboard, then you can already hear that we have something that resembles somehow the idea, but this is only one note yet, and this way of morphing is not ideal, so we will work on this. But first let's turn these into chords. For that we need 3 different envelopes, and I've prepared 2 other ones for the other channels, or the other polyphonic channels. So let me move these up here. And you can really just draw these, but I don't wanna waste your time with watching me drawing the curves. And now we create a switch and plug in all the custom functions one by one. And these will go into the pitch of the oscillator, like this. And we will use the same source for these custom functions. And we will use Unison to control the switch, because the switch can have a different state on each Unison voice, because this is not monophonic, this is a polyphonic switch. So this will be the switch controller. And these will receive the spread and the sum values. And yeah, this formula is happens just that I know how this works, but we will convert the spread from going from -1 to 1 or -2 to 2 or something like this, to always start at 0 and going until the sum. So we will convert the spread to something that we can easily work with. And for that, we first need to take the half of the sum. So 0.5, subtract 1 from it. And we need to round this value. And the round function is pretty simple. It's just we add 0.5 to the input and truncate it, because this is the way it works. And actually this should do it. If we add this to the spread, we should be fine. But we need to add one more, because we will drive a switch which is indexing from 1, and this is going to control the switch. I think this should work. So let's connect these and these, and let me set the Unison to 3 voices, and let's see if this works. And yes, it works, and this already demonstrated the problem with this method. So from now on we will only work on this morphing, and for that we are going to use this knob in between 0 and 1, and we will fix the direction we will go through. So we will go from left to right, and we will cycle around, and we will do it by moving this knob No, this is on step, so we will go back to analog, and I will center this as well. So if we move this knob to the totally to the right side, then we will load a new value into the left side. This doesn't make sense, but if we go back, then we will change the morphing on the right side, and this way we will be able to move forward using such a zigzag movement. I hope this makes sense, but if we build this, that will make sense for sure. So I call this morph control, and here we will receive the value of the knob. So I call this K and N. And the value of the knob is in between 0 and 1. So first we will check if it's turned to the right, and whenever we turn it to the right, we will output a trigger. So check if 1, or rather trigger if it gets 1. That's a more descriptive thing. So here we will receive the value. The value is in between 0 and 1, so if we truncate it, then we have 1 if the input value is 1. And if we check for the change, then we will have a trigger when we go to 1 and when we leave it. But if we leave it, we simply want to multiply by the truncated value, which is 0. So we only have a trigger when we arrive at 1. So this is the behavior we want. Now we want the opposite. Trigger if the signal gets 0. And that's not happening when we leave the value of 1, because that's already at 0.99999. But if we invert the input signal, that's just what we want, because this way, after this, everything's the same as before, except that it's turned around, and this will work. And this whole structure will drive a crossfader, like this. And this crossfader has 2 states. One state is going to go into the value A, so call this state A, and the other is going to go into the value B. But first let's create this first state. Here we will have an input and a variable that will store the value on the input, and we will receive a trigger, and we will send this out. And the first trigger will trigger this state, so this will read the value, but the value it will read is going to inherit from state B, and will simply be 1 more than B. So it doesn't matter how many times we rotate to the right, we will always only initialize state A to be 1 more than B. That's a nice thing. And if we go back, then we want to do the same with B. But here we also want to have 1 to be 1 more than the state A. So we have this connection in between the 2 states, and yeah, this should just work fine. Actually, this should be the driver. So this is the output, except that we want a modulo here. So if we go above 4, then we want to repeat, because we are doing 4 chords here. So here's the morph. This will go there. And let's take a look at how this works, or how this performs. So I hit a key, and if I turn this to 1, then we should move exactly to this point. And after that we should move, when I turn back, we will move to this point, and this point, and this point, and back to start. So let's see if this works. It works. And the only thing that we might want to do is to be able to reset the values here. So I will implement a reset knob, a reset input here, and that will receive its own knob for reset. That's going to be in step resolution and like this, and on the second MIDI control. Yeah, that works fine. And let's convert this to a trigger. Reset to trigger. And this is actually what we want. And on state A, we want to include this reset for sure. On both states actually, but they are going to behave differently. So on state A, we want to add the reset to this variable trigger, so to the trigger input. And we also want to make sure that at this time, the variable's input value is going to be 0. So we multiply the input of it by 0 whenever the reset happens. And if the reset happens, then this value is 1. So if we subtract the value from 1, then that's going to be 0. So this way we should work fine. And after this, we also want to reset the B state. And but here we only want to reset the trigger, because this will be one more anyways than state A if everything's right. So reset comes here, and I will pass the reset trigger like here under RST, and this will go there. And we need to patch the reset in. That's nice. And one more thing that I know from experience, because this is not the first time I build this patch, is that we want to trigger the reset on every start of a node. So nothing gets stuck and every parameter gets initialized. So this trigger here comes here. And yeah, actually this way the patch looks clean, and we have a working morphable synth. Reset. And of course you can turn this to curves. You can draw different curves here, like these and these, whatever you like. So I think this is pretty fun. And of course, sonically this is not the most interesting patch ever, but this method opens up lots of possibilities, and this way you can easily automate the morph, you can automate the reset. So this is really just the triangle in the automation lane. So this is all there is to it. We created a basic synth that is able to morph in between chords, and you can use this method to automate any other parameter that you see here, or use it as a modulation source. Or yeah, probably if I did a song for the intro, then you already heard a more complex setup of these, maybe with the same chords, because I'm not sure that I wanna change them. Anyways, I hope you had fun watching this, and I hope you found this interesting and will use this setup. And if you like this channel, or if you like content like this, then subscribe or leave a comment or push like or whatever. And thanks for watching. Bye bye.